Hey, what's up guys? This is Zach, and today we're going to talk a little bit about informal fallacies. If you don't know what an informal fallacy is, it's basically an error in argumentation that violates some sort of sound thinking principle. So I'm going to provide you with some example arguments and briefly explain why they're fallacious. Don't worry, you'll understand as you watch the video. Appeal to popularity, or sometimes called the bandwagon fallacy. Many people believe X is true, therefore X is true. An example of this would be if your friend told you that he believed angels exist, and his reasoning for this was, well, so many people believe in angels, they must exist. It seems to your friend unreasonable that angels couldn't exist, but the reason this is an example of fallacious argumentation is because it doesn't follow that just because a lot of people believe angels exist, that therefore angels do exist. Now, this isn't to say that angels don't exist. In fact, I happen to believe angels exist myself. It is to say, though, that you can't come to the conclusion simply because a lot of people believe it to be true. A lot of people used to believe the Earth was the center of our solar system, but that ended up not being true. So popularity can neither help nor hurt an argument. All we can conclude from popularity is just that. It happens to be a popular belief, but it doesn't actually have any bearing on whether it's true or whether it's false. Appeal to ignorance. X has not been proven false or non-existent, therefore X must be true or exist. Take the Loch Ness Monster for example. Your friend might say to you, well, we have a lot of pictures of Nessie, and nobody has ever disproven that she exists. The reason this is a fallacy is because the lack of evidence that Nessie doesn't exist doesn't mean, therefore, that she does. You could take the same example from angels that I just used before. Just because no one has disproven the existence of angels doesn't mean, therefore, that they exist. All it means is that nobody has ever disproved that something is true or that it exists. Appealing to ignorance is fallacious. Appeal to emotion. X is associated with some sort of positive emotional response, therefore X is true. An example of this could be seen in a court case that took place in which an attorney appealed to the jury that two children who murdered their parents should be found innocent because they were orphans. The positive emotion he was associating their innocence with was pity. He was hoping that the pity the jury felt toward these children would lead them to conclude they were therefore innocent of this crime. The reason this argument is fallacious is because it doesn't follow that simply feeling pity for someone should lead you therefore to conclude they are innocent of a crime. Also, keep in mind the reason these kids are orphans is because they murdered their parents. Leave it to a lawyer to fool you with a fallacious argument. Post hoc. This is also called the fallacy of false cause. A came before B, therefore A caused B. An example of this can be seen in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians worshipped a certain type of bird which migrated past the Nile every year. Every season this bird flew past the river, the Egyptians associated the birds flying past their homeland with the rivers overflowing. These birds were sacred in the eyes of the Egyptians because they caused the river to overflow. As it turns out, the river's overflowing was actually just a sign of the seasons changing. The reason this argument is fallacious is because it wrongly associates A with causing B. It just so happens to be that every time the seasons change, this bird would happen to fly past the Nile River. But that doesn't mean the bird caused the river to overflow. It's just a coincidence. What the Egyptians attributed to this bird was a false cause. Hasty generalization. A and B have been linked one or a few times, therefore A causes B, or vice versa. An example of this would be maybe in your life you've known someone who has smoked cigarettes. They might be one of the healthiest people you know. You might conclude, therefore, that smoking isn't really bad for you because this person I know is one of the healthiest people I've ever met. The reason this argument is fallacious is because it's wrong to draw a universal conclusion from a small sample, namely the one person you know who smokes. What this argument ignores is the research that's been done on thousands of people, millions of people, showing the connection between cigarette smoking and lung cancer, or many of the other negative effects you can think of. So try not to be too hasty when you really haven't observed very much. False dilemma, sometimes called the either-or fallacy. Either A or B is true, A is not true, therefore B. You'll often find this fallacy employed by politicians. For example, a politician might say, either we allow our nation's schools to collapse or we increase the budget toward education. The reason this argument is fallacious is because it strategically limited our choices to either A or B, when in reality, there might be many more options for us to choose from. Are you in agreement with Obama's new policy? Yes or no? Well, there may be a more complex answer to that. Do I have any more options? If someone is arguing with you in this way, chances are they want to limit you to these two choices. Ad hominem, or sometimes called the personal attack fallacy. I have a problem with the person or group claiming X. Therefore, X must be false. For example, my neighbor came by my house to share something with me, perhaps some political views, perhaps some religious views. But he's only 19 years old. I'm not going to believe anything he has to tell me. The reason this line of argumentation is fallacious is because it rejects the person and doesn't even begin to deal with the argument. That's an ad hominem fallacy. Circular reasoning. This is also sometimes called begging the question. A, therefore A. A famous example of this could be seen in the 1995 Miss America beauty pageant, when Miss Alabama was asked the question, if you could live forever, would you? Why or why not? Miss Alabama gave one of the best examples we could ever offer of circular reasoning. Her answer was this. I would not live forever because we should not live forever because if we were supposed to live forever, then we would live forever, but we cannot live forever, which is why I would not live forever. That is a bad argument. A, therefore A. Circular reasoning is typically considered poor because it's just bad reasoning. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a better understanding of some of the informal fallacies you'll encounter in everyday life. Hopefully this video will encourage you to not use these kinds of arguments, whether you're writing a paper or just talking with a friend or family member. If you learned something new today or just like learning about fallacious arguments, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos on practical philosophy, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any ideas for new videos, leave a comment in the comment section below. Thanks, guys.